If you're watching this video, you probably live in the United States and you'd probably agree we're the best country on the planet. But when it comes to the success of your retirement and your ability to make work become optional, should you be entirely invested in this self-proclaimed best country? Well, if you look at the return chart of the US compared to, I believe, any other country for the last 30 years, you're going to see the US and the black line here at the top of the return chart. So again, that begs the question, why be invested anywhere else? And the answer is, quite frankly, to accept lower returns to try to reduce your risks. And this is the risk I'm talking about. Remember that period from 2000 to 2009? Probably not. But what happened was we were sandwiched between a dot-com bubble and the Great Recession, which you probably do remember, of 2008, 2009. And during that 10-year period, the S&P 500, the US top 500 companies, had a total return of negative 9% for a decade. And during that same time, the US small cap, so smaller companies, had a 218% return. And while you can probably focus on this French FAMA international value is probably the best representation of at least how I invest internationally, would be 132% return. So if you're in retirement, you're pulling off of your portfolio to create a stream of income, and you have a decade-long period with negative 9%, you're going to be in a really scary place. And that's why it's so important to have your small cap and your international supporting the portfolio. Another simple chart. On the bottom, the US underperforms. On the top, the US outperforms. Since 1970, you can see there's been a constant switching of the US outperforming and then the US underperforming. Again, here is a list of a number of developed companies, and highlighted is the best performing country. So you can see that the US here on the bottom has only outperformed one time, ranging from 2003 to 2022. Is the US maybe the most consistent, given that it's had the best track record over the last 30 years? Probably. But again, we need to diversify in order to reduce our risk so that we don't have that 10-year period where we have zero or even negative performance. So then you might ask, okay, well, how the heck do I invest? How much US versus how much international stock should I own? That's a fantastic question. Let's go ahead and start with thinking about all of the stocks that you can invest in from around the world. And if you break them into three categories, the United States, developed countries, of course not including the United States, and then emerging markets, this is about what the total value of their stock markets and all the publicly traded companies represent. So you could, as a fun fact, just kind of know that somewhere in the range of $70 trillion is the total stock market value of the world. Now, of course, this doesn't include private holdings and real estate and things like that, so really just stock market value. But you can see that over the years, the total value has changed, ending in 2022 with about 57-58% of the US capturing that market value. So if you're trying to diversify your chips, putting 60% in the US might make a lot of sense. And sure enough, when you look at, for an example, a Vanguard target date fund holding 10% in bonds, you're going to see that about 60% of the equities are in the US, while the other percent is in non-US. Overall, my goal for you is to be able to build long-term wealth and be able to use your portfolio to sustain your lifestyle long into your retirement, and maybe even building generational wealth. And if you take this diversified strategy, you may never have any home run hits. You're not going to have the 1,000% returns overnight. But I truly believe, and this is a quote from Morgan Housel, that average returns sustained for an above average period of time lead to extraordinary performance.